Hey, what's up, people? Rasati out here in Singapore, and as always, thank you so much for joining me on the Night Owl podcast. Now, the last episode, I was talking to you about many hands making light work, how to relieve burdens. It's because you need to let somebody, excuse me, I had the hiccups. You have to let somebody in to be able to hear you out, so you don't feel like you're carrying it all by yourself. It's common knowledge that your cross is your own to bear. Yes, the things that you deal with are big to you. You can't really compare them to anybody else because once you start comparing them, you're going to feel like, you're invalidated. You feel like your belief system is being challenged somehow. The point being that you try your best to manage what you have, and sometimes it's just overwhelming. That's just the plain truth of it all. But I want to talk to you about this other aspect of, trying to make light work of the burden that you're dealing with. So, a lot of times I've seen how people, when they're at home, tend to act out way worse than they ever would in public. It's almost like they're two different people, right? The people who live with you generally see who you are, who you really are, with no pretense, with no makeup, with no, shiny lacquer on top to make you look pretty, to make you look like, you're $1 million, like you're camera ready, basically. But when you're at home versus the people you are around outside, the behavior changes. And why is that? Usually, I tend to see that when you're at home, you feel like, okay, these people are with you for life. They're not about to let you go. They're not about to, get rid of you. They can't. They're blood relatives. They're stuck with you for the rest of your life. So you feel like you don't have to protect the connection. You don't have to worry about whether that connection is going to leave you or not. But you do have some level of anxiety of them possibly walking out, possibly judging you, possibly not, continue the connection that you're used to. Now, when I was growing up, I felt like it was okay to yell back when my mom yelled at me. It was almost my way of saying, hey, it's not okay to yell at me, and maybe you don't understand what it feels like. Maybe I'm going to give you a dose of your own medicine. And so I acted out a lot, right? And it wasn't like I was trying to be vindictive or anything, but I felt like I was being squashed. I felt like my entire being was being restricted to the point that I couldn't even be myself. I had to be a shell of a person in order to live in my house, and I wasn't having any of that. It's my house. Why can't I be myself? Why can't I be my bubbly, happy, cheerful self? Because I get enough pressure from the outside world. Now, outside world, of course, I want to protect my reputation. I want to protect the image that people have of me. I want to make sure that, my employer thinks highly of me because I do not want to lose that job. I don't want to miss out on my friends. I don't want to upset anybody. I don't want to burn any bridges. It's outside of my house. But inside my house, I usually feel like I have the right to finally let go of everything, put everything down, and just be myself. If I don't feel like washing the dishes, I shouldn't have to wash the dishes. But I also know that if I don't wash the dishes, no one's going to do it. So these are the little things that come to mind. How is it that the behavior is so different at home versus who you are in front of the rest of the world? So I've had a couple of instances, okay, not a couple, I've had many instances where I get to judge. That's a very bad word. I do judge them, don't I? Oh my gosh. Okay. I get to watch people and I get to decide for myself, maybe where they're coming from, what their reasoning is behind why they behave the way that they do outside versus the way that they do inside. I've watched my brothers grow up. I've watched my cousins grow up. I've watched exes, right? Inside the house, outside the house, because I've lived with both of my exes before they became exes. But the point being that I see firsthand how people take advantage of the fact that this is supposed to be a safe place. It is your space. It is your home. It is your one corner of the world where you just get to be yourself. You get to be as disgusting as you want to be. You can pick your nose. You can pick your ass. You can pick, pick wedgies, pick whatever you want. You can not shower for 10 days. You can decide to eat stuff off the, whatever. It's really your corner of the world. There is no one that should be able to judge you. But the point being that why do you act so differently when you leave the house then? Why is it that you pretend so hard when you leave the house? Why is it that you won't let anybody see who you actually are? Why is it that you try to keep up appearances? It's usually because of fear. You don't think that people would love you at your worst, but how would you ever know that unless you give people a shot? Obviously, the world is quick to judge, right? I just said that myself. I watched and I judged. But in a situation where people are quick to judge, does that mean that you should be less of yourself? Doesn't that mean that you build up more when you're outside of the house so that there's more to explode inside the house? There's more that's built up that needs to be released somehow inside the house? if I were to watch and talk about my father, for all intents and purposes, everybody would say he's a very generous man, he's a very friendly guy, he has so many connections, he's such a great business person, but we know him as a different person inside the house. I also know that when we were growing up, if there was anything that was going wrong in his business, he brought it home. And it was his place where he was already so stressed out, he didn't realize that he was bleeding onto us. When his business would fall apart, when his work projects would not go the way he planned, or when he suddenly found himself out of work for a little while because the project fell through or whatever, it would come home with him. His frustration in the outside world, of course, he can't show his face there because people would start to talk about him, right? People would spread rumors about his temper or the way he handles people or whatever. So when he comes home, it was up to us not to make a sound that was out of place. We weren't to look at him, out the corner of our eyes. We weren't to behave anything other than robots, because if anything were to upset him, all of the fury from the outside world would come tumbling in to us. He would deal with us as if we were the ones who were constantly disrupting his life, even though we barely saw him. Right? So that was the kind of chaotic environment I grew up in, but I also realized that he did that because he didn't think he would be able to make it on his own if he was himself outside of the house. I've seen that with myself. There have been many times where I didn't think I could step outside the house without a full face of makeup on, completely dressed to the nines, and then I had to be super polite. I had to be the bad bitch. I had to be, I don't know, whatever persona I felt like I needed to be based on the group of people I was around, and it was exhausting. It was depressing because at the end of the day, I would come home and I would wonder, well, who of these damn people would actually love me if they really knew? Who of these people would really take care of me if they really knew? If they knew the kinds of thoughts that went through my head as a new mom, oh my gosh, the thoughts that go through your head are quite terrifying and disturbing, to be honest, because sometimes you just wish the baby would shut up, right? But you can't. That child is not able to communicate the way you want it to, and you have to do the best you can. Sometimes you wish that people would just step into your shoes for a day and have to deal with all the things that you deal with, because then maybe they'd understand. But I'm not at liberty to tell you what goes on in my head because I'm not sure you'd understand. So it's a double-edged sword almost, and the fact that you're trying to unburden yourself and trying to find people that you can be around that would help you make light of the work, share the burden maybe, is difficult because everybody has their own priorities. For me, I need to be able to provide for this family. I need to make sure that there's food on the table, and a variety of food at that, because I know you don't want to eat the same shit every day, day in and day out. But sometimes I'm not able. Sometimes I need to downgrade the quality of the food that I buy, and I don't want to do that, but sometimes I have no choice because my business is such. As much as I love teaching emotional intelligence, I am not like most medical professionals where I'm hoping that you need me for the rest of your life. I don't want you to need me for the rest of your life, because to me, an effective teacher means I've taught you something so effectively that you no longer need me to teach you, because you got it now, right? You're ready for the next layer of life. Maybe there's another teacher out there to help you with the next level, because I've done all I need to. You learned it. You figured it out for me, which means I have a constant influx and outpouring of clients. People come in, people go out. People come in, people go out, and that is the way it should be. It should be a turnkey business where people come in, they learn the stuff, they apply it a couple times, they need to hold your hand for a little while, and then you know what? They got it. They got it. They don't need you anymore. Which means, guess what? Now I need new blood, fresh blood. I need new people to come in and need my business. But that's hard because with the ups comes the downs. And when the downs come, I have no one to share that burden with because I don't think anyone cares enough. But how would I know if somebody cares? I have to open up and test and try and attempt to share the burdens that are in my heart, which means I'm going to have to open myself up to the risk of rejection, judgment, criticism, that age-old saying of, well, shit, go out and get a job then. So do you see the dilemma? I see it clear as day, and I'm not entirely sure what to do about it, except for I need to continue providing a safe space for people to be able to open up their hearts, open up their minds, let all of that stuff they've been bundling up and, stockpiling away out, so they can see, okay, it's not really as bad as I thought. Okay, this is not something that's completely impossible. Okay, I can ask other people for help in little ways. Maybe you're the sole breadwinner in the house. You do the washing, the cleaning, the cooking. You go out, you come back, you put yourself out there. You do the marketing for your business. You do the, the accounting for your business. You do the content writing for your business. You do all of that. The R&D, the business development. You are a one-person army. And maybe Unburdening yourself is the idea that, okay, I don't like doing this one thing. For me personally, I hate doing accounts. I hate dealing with money. I really do. I really do. I'd rather have somebody else be the hard ass and draw the lines and tell people, look, pay up or get out kind of thing. But I'm not built like that. And at the end of the day, I don't want to look at the numbers. I want to look at the effect I've had on people. So guess what? One way that I could unburden myself is to put somebody in charge of the money, which means, guess what? I need to open up and ask. I need a trial and error. I need to test and see if they are trustworthy or not. And the only way you can see if they're trustworthy is to trust them first and then see if they're worthy. I've had that happen on several occasions. I've had a difficulty in the beginning with creating images, with creating graphics for my business. And I hired somebody and I paid top dollar on purpose because I wanted them to know I valued their craft. I valued the amount of time that they put into to be able to create these things. But I also know they've been doing it for a million years. It probably is easier to them than it would be for me. And so what I see as a burden is easy money to them. So I thought, okay, it's worth it. Let me pay 2,000 rupees for an image, because it was worth it to me, right? And guess what happened? For a while, they were worth it. And in the end, they did not see how easy money was clouding their judgment. And so they were taking the money, but they were not providing the input or the images or the designs that I was looking for. And I was very hands-on. I was very clear about my instructions. And when it became hard to communicate, I just cut them off and then just didn't ask anybody ever again. So that is my trauma. That is my healing that I still need to go through. But I did. I put myself out there and I asked for help. And when it didn't turn out the way I wanted it to, I closed back up again. And I see that happen on a daily basis. When people finally do call me up, schedule some time, sit down and talk, when they finally tell me what's going on, I can see how they could make light work of the situation by asking for help. But I also know the trauma that comes with trying to help people and ask for their expertise and trying to let people in so that you don't have to do all this by yourself. You have a team that you can, rising tide lifts all boats. If I help you use what you have as a natural gift to the world, then you come up and I come up and we all come up, and why not, right? We built a community. But people don't want to see it that way. People want to see the world as limited in its resources and its in abundance. And with that mindset, they're going to hoard and they're not going to give their best efforts. Not everybody does. And as much as I hate to say that, it's part of the reason I don't open up that often. I am afraid of judgment. I'm afraid of criticism. I'm afraid of rejection. I'm afraid of things coming back to bite me in the ass later. I have been in situations where I asked my ex-husband for money. I had just lost my job. It was the second time I'd been laid off in 4 years, and we had 3 kids in the house, and I was struggling to make ends meet. I did have, unemployment from the state, which was helpful. It was only $300 a week. But even then, to ask for a little bit extra here and there, and not because I was, glamorizing and accessorizing myself, it was food that I was trying to put on the table to pay bills. So we had heat in the winter and AC in the summertime. But even then, when I asked for money like that, and I asked for help, let him know exactly what I needed help with, it would come to bite me in my ass later, where he would throw it in my face that you couldn't even handle this. You had to ask me for help. You weren't capable. You weren't good enough. And so, yeah, it builds up over the years, and I am very scared to ask for help. I'm very scared to put myself out there. But I also know if I don't ask, closed mouths don't get fed. If I don't ask, people won't know. People won't be able to help even if they were capable. So these are the things that go through my mind when I see people come in and burden their souls with me. I can feel it alongside them. Their fears, their concerns, their worries that people just won't get it. And it's okay. But you still need to find a way to open up. You still need to find a way to ask for little things at least. Maybe you don't tell them the whole story, right? You tell them a little bit and see if they can help you with the little bit. But the little bit helps. Every little bit helps. There were days where I wasn't sure if I could feed the kids, and I wasn't sure if I could get out of bed because I was so depressed. Because for me, when I don't have the money, I tend not to eat. I don't feel like I'm worthy of the food that's about to go into my mouth, because also, if I put that food in my mouth, it doesn't go in someone else's mouth. So there's a lot to unpack. There's a lot to go on here, but many hands do make light work. But how do you trust that the people inside your house, right, they know who you are, they can't go anywhere, versus the people outside your house will accept you for who you are? You can't. There's no way of knowing. You have to find a way to let it out first and see who sticks around and who doesn't. And maybe they tarnish your reputation. Maybe the rumors start flying. Maybe people want to gossip, because of course people want to gossip. But at the end of the day, you have to be yourself. So how do you manage that? How do you reconcile all those things? And again, this may be another podcast episode, but yeah, the burden, I see it, I feel it, I hear it. It's in my heart. I know it's in your heart. And it would be great to be able to share some of those things with people. And yes, sometimes people get tired of hearing it from you. You can't share it with the same person over and over again. But how do you manage then? What comes of you? How do you get through this life? You can't get through it on your own. You're not built to get through it on your own. Yeah, you got to do the work in your life. You got to heal your wounds. You've got to find a way to manage the responsibilities, but you're not meant to do it all by yourself. You're meant to have a community around you, at least a couple people to support. But then what do you do when those support people are tired, or when those support people have their own things going on, they can't help you either? These are things that cross my mind. These are the things that worry me, because the statistics on suicide are staggering, and they shouldn't be. We should be more supportive as a people. We should be more loving and more kind and more compassionate. But we're so concerned with how people will see us and what our struggles look like to us that we're not willing to make space for anybody else. And we're not willing to let people in either. Catch-22, right? Anyway, that's it for today. I hope it gave you plenty to think about, and I would love to hear your concerns and comments. I encourage community. I encourage conversation, you guys. Let's discuss these things, because it's important. But until the next time, you guys, take care, okay?